When you look at where the farms came in the last few months, what is your most proud accomplishment to date on things you've done?
Um, I would say like looking out and seeing those like that first block like done, like compost spread out, everything's like ready to go. Um, I wouldn't have said that probably 3 months ago, but like now knowing like how much work it's gone into that, like the just like the literal back-breaking labor of like, raising the beds without a tractor and and then like just spreading wheelbarrow loads of compost. And but also knowing like what that means, like knowing the benefit of what that will be for the future of the farm, like that's definitely like I kind of want to just like show everyone like, hey, look at these beds that don't have anything planted in them, but look how beautiful they are.
There is something about even an unplanted bed just all laid out nicely that
Yeah,
is very beautiful, I think.
yeah.
When you think about the development of the farm now, zero being raw, 100 being done, where are you in terms of where the progress level? And I want to quantify this, but I don't mean in terms of having cash crops in the ground. And I don't mean in terms of farm perfection that's going to take years to put into place, but just in terms of basics of wash pack set up how you want, all the beds set up, all the infrastructure set up. Zero is starting from nothing or whatever was there. 100% is that's done with continuous improvement. Where are you on that gauge right now?
I'd say I'm probably like like high 20s, low 30s. So we'll just say 30. Like out of my three main blocks, like one of them's done. Um, and like ready to either has plants, like it has like cash crop in the ground, or it's like ready for stuff to come out of the prop house to go in the ground. So like one block's totally done, and then two other blocks are like basically just sitting bare, waiting for me to like shape them and either cover crop them or like put compost on them. Wash packs, like I'd say like it's the first iteration of wash pack. We'll see like come once market kicks off and we're like really churning out some stuff and having to like do a lot of bag salad mix and stuff. I'll probably reiterate again and again and again. But uh, you know, uh, high tunnels jamming. It's like exactly where I want it to be. Um, Prop house is probably 50%. So yeah, I'd say in total, um, probably in that 30, maybe 35. I'll be a little more optimistic.
Starting out, if you go back to day one and you said, where am I going to be beginning of February? Did you think you'd be ahead of 30%? Would you have guessed?
Oh heck yeah! I would have been like, come February, every bed is shaped and ready to go, and we're rocking and rolling. My my initial plans on like cultivating my beds or like raising my beds and building my beds didn't go like I planned. And so that definitely like kind of hampered my progress pretty quickly. So yeah, I probably would have been hoping to be somewhere in the like 50-60% range at this point.
As the year starts getting more advanced with days getting longer and temperatures getting warmer, is it going to be a continual focus on getting it to 100% this year, or are you going to at some point have to say that's it for this year, we're going to focus on growing crops and the rest of build out will continue in year two?
Yeah, I would say it would go from like, right now we're probably at like 80-20, like 80% build out, 20% um like growing to it'll probably switch because I do want to have everything done. Like I would much rather have beds made and like can get cover cropped or mulched and just be ready to go, so then it's like instead of having to be so intensive about like I need to do a bed flip and get something in the ground immediately, I have a little bit more flexibility. It's like, well, I can move to block 2 or block 3. Um, and so it'll probably never, I won't just like have like a cutoff time of like, I'm not making any more beds and I'm just focusing on what I have. I'll probably just like slowly go from like 80-20 to 50-50 and then eventually 80-20 until I feel like I've like the final form of like the layout of the farm is what it will be.
Did you advance here? You probably have some vision of what you want it to be, and that's the episode of today, the initial farm business model. When you think about going back to last year, before you had the property, you're working at Crystal Organic, I want to start my own farm. What did that farm business look like? I don't mean like I want to see these beds with these crops in it, but is it a CSA farm? Is it a farmer's market farm? Is it high rotation? Is it a full diet farm where you're growing a bunch of everything? Is it specialized in something like greens? What did you envision for your farm business when you first started thinking about this?
Yeah, I'd definitely say um, I've kind of always wanted to do more like mixed veg, kind of and high and low rotation. Like I don't want to go so calculated um, to where it's like, we grow 4 things and they're all like tiny baby vegetables that, we have this like hardcore profit margin on and we just like churn them out, boom, 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 boom. Um, but also not like, row cropping or, it's kind of falling somewhere in between of like, yeah, like let's have our high intensity, high rotation stuff that is like higher profit margin, higher value things, but then also like, like I want to feed people. Like I want to provide actual like, actual produce that people eat. Like I don't want to just grow baby greens exclusively. Like on our website, the top banner just under the logo is like real food for real people. And so it's like I want to grow the stuff that people are going to eat. Um, within reason, like and obviously knowing I have to like turn a profit. Like I'm not growing head broccoli. I'm not going to be doing a bunch of cabbage and stuff that, takes forever and takes up a ton of space. But yeah, I would say more of the small scale, intensive market garden kind of quintessential thing, but maybe with a little bit more of a flexibility uh, to do some like longer season things that are like low rotation, sweet potatoes, winter squash, things like that. That I would say in the majority of the like hardcore market garden kind of community is probably frowned upon because it may not be as high of like a profit margin.
When you're fully built out all the beds, what amount of production space does that give you? Is that the acre and a half, or is that including the extra space around it?
So yeah, like the whole area totally like the entire fenced in area, because there's like an existing deer fence, that's an acre and a half. So that'll, so I would say in total, like, if we're measuring like bed tops, like I have no idea, but I would say in total, like cultivated space is about an acre.
So you have about an acre to do all that stuff. When you look at that model, how much is Crystal Organic where you work influenced how you want to farm?
In ways that I like never thought it would, because I kind of I came there with this like sort of bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, sort of like idealistic, like, yeah, we can shove as many lettuces into a bed as it can like physically hold within a certain square footage and we're just gonna just churn it out. And then realizing that like a lot of that is because of like really, really excellent soil. And and not that we have horrible soil down here, but it's definitely not as like rich or doesn't have the best tilth. Um, it's like heavy clay, not a ton of organic matter. And so I think I sort of coming from there, I've realized like, hey, like probably need to space some stuff out a little bit more. give stuff a chance to breathe, um, and just be willing to kind of stretch your arms a little bit if that makes sense. Just not have to be so intensive, and and be willing to be. I would say the biggest thing is I've been fully prepared to like do as much cut and come again as I can. Like with lettuce, for instance. Um, like about to start harvesting my second cutting of lettuce. And it's like, we'll see how it is. But Nicholas has been pretty adamant, like, we don't really do any cut and come again stuff there. He's like one and done. Like lettuce heads, like we're coming out. We're gonna cut them out and make them into salad mix anyways, but it's just not as profitable to wait for that second cutting when we can just flip that bed and get something else in there. And so it's definitely influenced me to realize that it's like instead of trying to squeeze every little bit of profit out of a bed, maybe you can like give it a chance to like put it in cover crop, or maybe not put 4 rows of lettuce, but just do 3 rows of lettuce on a 30-inch bed.
When you think crop culture farm, real food for real people, when you're formulating this vision, taking what you've seen at Crystal Organic, what you've learned with where you want to go, where does what does real food for real people mean? Like, what does that translate to in the field? What would if somebody was a customer, what are they going to say you're known for?
I would say, um, definitely having like a diversity. Like I know I already kind of mentioned that, but like trying to grow like a wider range. I wouldn't say anything like abnormal. Can't put a number on exactly how many things I'm wanting to do this year. I have all that written down, but growing a range of things that people are going to eat. Um, like not just do salad mix, but like let's do some salad mix, but let's also do some like braised greens and do some stir fry greens, and like instead of just doing tatsoi, like let's do a mix of tatsoi, mizuna, and baby bok choy. So it's like you get some nice, interesting textures instead of like I feel like that feels way less um, intimidating to a home cook that maybe um, isn't used to like these high end baby greens, like something like tatsoi that they've never heard of. But most people, I feel like, have heard of bok choy. And so by creating this mix, that it's like, yeah, you can throw it in your stir fry or in your ramen or whatever. So it's kind of like trying to find this middle ground between like your conventional, basic things that you would find at a grocery store and your high end specialty stuff, and try to find this like middle ground between there to like introduce people to new things, but also like kind of meet them where they're at. If that makes sense. And then try to charge it an affordable price. Um, obviously I need to be able to turn a profit, but I've kind of always said, and this might be controversial, but like I don't want my main clientele to just be like affluent white people in an urban center, which I feel like is sort of like the bread and butter for most small scale market gardens. Like I want to try and um, sell real food to real people. Like people like us that like don't get to just buy 100% organic produce at the farmers market every single week, um, but want to eat healthy, want to eat local, want to eat seasonal, and may just kind of need a little bit of hand holding or introduction to some new stuff.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember from talking with Nicholas, did Crystal Organic, did they do farmers market?
They probably, when you did that episode, they were. He was doing like he helped start Morningside, which is like the big OG farmers market, like organic farmers market in Atlanta. But then after COVID, they switched to doing more like mostly wholesale now, but still
So,
selling into like the same markets, just through another company.
yeah, the reason I ask is because you have this vision of what you want to sell, who you want to sell to, how the pricing, where what's the market side of that come from? Is that just intuition based on your part? Like you think those people are out there? Is it, you've worked at farmers markets knowing those people are out there? Um, because everybody comes at business, whether you're selling paper pot stuff or vegetables, right? I got to know, who am I selling to? What's the opportunity? And it's one thing for me to want to do something. It's another, I need somebody to meet me on the other side of what I'm selling to buy, to close that transaction. So you have that. So what have you seen that gives you confidence in, I want to do this, there'll be buyers to meet me there?
Yeah, I'd say, part of it is, like the markets that I'm eyeing. I've been accepted into one, but the one I'm really wanting, I've got a farm visit this week, and that'll kind of seal the deal for me, hopefully. Um, it's like they're in like slightly higher income areas, but we're outside of the city. It's more like suburban. Um, and so I mean, Atlanta's a super diverse city, but some of these like surrounding areas that I'm eyeing are a little bit more kind of middle class, and so like I know that the people are there, and those markets have a good mix of like, it's not all like high end organic. It's sort of a bit of a mix. So I can, maybe I don't know, the kind of the boomer grandma who's going to come and like just wants to find her good summer tomatoes. Like I might be able to introduce her to broccolini, and it's like 1 degree different from her basic broccoli that she buys, and but it's something new and tastes 5 times better. But also just like market research. Like I probably jumped the gun and like going ahead and selling a little bit, but it's been my proof of concept. Like realizing like I can sell kabocha like winter squash for $4 a pound, and no one seems to bat an eye at it. And you know, or I can sell a 7 ounce bag of salad mix for $6, and no one seems to be batting an eye. And they come back and I'm like, oh my god, it's so great! I want to buy 2 bags this week. And so some of it has been, and like these people that are buying my stuff right now, like these friends and family and like our church people, like they're not. Some of them are your typical farmers market buys, but a lot of them are not. And this is their first real experience with buying like seasonal local produce, and they're really digging it, and they're totally willing to pay what I'm asking, which is it doesn't feel like it's cheap. Like I'm asking a fair price to make a good profit. Um, yeah, so I'd say it's a mix of what I've seen at the markets and knowing the demographics of the areas, and then also just like boots on the ground, like people being pumped to do that when I say like this is how much it's going to be.
What do you think about the business model? So initially, you've talked to some people to sell. It sounds like you're going the farmers market route. Is this first year? Are you a farmers market farm?
100%. Yeah, that's going to be the main focus is selling at market, 100%, and then trying to supplement with like sort of like a hybrid CSA online or order pickup sort of thing. Just kind of like an 80/20 or even like a 90/10 as far as like the breakdown there. Yeah, the market is definitely going to be the main focus.
When you look at farmers market versus CSAs versus wholesale, which Nicholas did, versus selling online, why farmers markets?
I think at least with the ones that I'm looking at, you kind of have, you're not having to go chase down customers. Like obviously you still have to sell, you still have to present yourself in a way that people want to buy your stuff at a market. But um, but by finding like an established market that seems to be successful and is wanting what you have, you're basically being able to like go to a place where the people are coming and looking for you. Um, and I think this year, like I'm trying to envision just the process of building out the farm, trying to hit my numbers, trying to make sure I grow enough, and then also trying to think about like the pressure of I've got 20 CSA shares and I have to make sure that I have this much worth of stuff every single week to hit my numbers. And that feels extremely daunting. Because I can go to market with it could be a horrible week and I have $400 worth of stuff and I could sell out, or I can show up with, you know, $2,000 worth of stuff and sell most of it, and so it's like if and and no one's gonna look at me because I have $400 worth of stuff and say, like, well, you failed this week. It's like, oh no, it was just a slim week. Where if you have CSA orders that you can't meet, then it's like that feels like a much bigger um, of a failure than just slim inventory at a market.
Well, it sounds like you have a lot of good farmers markets to choose from, given that I'll call you a new farmer. I know you farm, you have farm experience, but I'll just
Oh, and I'm super new, super green. Don't
so I'll
don't
call
have
you a
to
new
hesitate
farmer.
about that. Yeah.
On a new farm where you're being set up there, what's the most farmers markets per week that you'd feel comfortable committing to? And there's a couple things playing to this. I mean, there's one, how many farmers markets do you have to do a week to financially make it work? And then two, it's you also have to have enough product at both to make them work. So where's that balance?
I would say like where I will probably be at, kind of back to that question of like, at what point are you going to stop trying to build out and just make do with what you have? I'm probably like a one farmer's market a week um, type position where I am right now. Um, but I would say two, and I guess it depends. Like, if I'm hiring another person to run another market, do like two markets on a Saturday at the same time. Um, you know, uh, Maybe just do like two on one day. But if it was like me and my family out there, maybe do like a Wednesday, Thursday market and then a Saturday one. But I'd say with our current build out that where we're at and what I feel like we can produce, like I don't see myself being able to do two farmers markets a week worth of stuff to where I actually feel like I can like justify the trip out there and setting up and and doing that, like to be able to like make enough cash flow to make that really worth it.
So it'll be one market a week.
Yeah, right now.
What day would that be? Sorry, I missed that.
Saturday. It's
So
Saturday market.
Saturday market. What do you two numbers this could be? What do you have to make at a market a week to make the farm financially successful?
So currently, like shooting for part time, like being able to, because remember I'm totally full time at Crystal right now. And if I'm able to scale back to like part time at the farm, I really need to be around like 500-600 bucks a week bare minimum at the
Okay,
farm
so
at the market.
so $500 a week keeps you at Crystal full time and working on this part time.
No, that would probably be like part time on both. Like full time, I could probably cut back even a little bit less than that. But I'm running myself ragged, and it doesn't feel worth it at that point.
What would you need sales to be to go 100% crop culture?
100% crop culture. Um, I need to be doing from my numbers got here. I need to be doing. I sort of planned out and projected to be doing about $1,000 to 1,200 bucks a week at a farmer's market, and then doing about $300 a week um, in like CSA pickup. So if you cut out the CSA pickup, that's like 1,500 bucks a week at a market.
$1,000 more. Okay.
Yeah.
It When you look at the farmers market you're targeting, what is realistic in terms of what you think you can make there? So it's a totally different question. You need to make this much. Is 500 at that market well within the grasp of reality?
I think so. I think $1,000, um, like knowing how I can sell and the product that I'm going to be carrying compared to what else is there. Um, yeah, I think $1,000 a week is definitely doable. And the reason why I say that is because with this particular market, and the reason why I've been really pushing for this one is I was told that they were really looking for more like specialty greens, like tomatoes, peppers, stuff like that. Like, yeah, they've got plenty of stuff like that, but when it comes to actual like more of the specialty market garden type stuff, salad mix, things like that, they're really itching to have somebody to do that. And so I feel like not only am I finding a good market that gets like 2,000 plus people every single week with like 70 plus vendors, or 40 plus vendors, like I'm also filling a niche that they've been like begging to have filled.
How many vendors?
I want to say, if I remember the last, like, if I remember my count right, it was like 40 something vendors. Like it was quite a bit. I mean, that's not a gigantic market, but it's pretty good, especially considering the size of the town that it's in.
Yeah. What about what's your confidence level in producing to the level the producing the pr- producing what you need to sell what you need? So it's one thing to say I need to sell a $500 a week. It's another thing to sell it, but to sell it, you have to produce it. Any thoughts behind, all right, yeah, like I can produce $500 a week. I don't think that's a problem. Let's say you could sell 1,000, double that. Can you actually produce $1,000 of product? So going to the production side to deliver on the sales, how do you feel about that with, again, being on your own, new beds, new growing conditions, all that stuff?
Yeah, obviously a lot of that we'll just kind of have to see, but I would say that that 500 number that'll be no problem whatsoever. Um, especially once warms up, we get more sunlight in spring, summer, and fall. Like, yeah, I think that would be no problem whatsoever. Um, Hitting that like consistent $1,000 a week, like I was running the numbers the other day, and like how many bags of salad that needs to be versus like how many bunches of broccoli or kale, and just trying to like fully conceptualize like what does $1,000 a week look like at a farmer's market? Like how much product am I actually needing to take? And it was like, whew, like that's like I'm gonna have to be dialed in. Like it's I'm either gonna have to like plant out more, like fill up more of the space than I have to be able to give myself more wiggle room, or I really need to be like on it with my successions, to hit those numbers, you know, because yeah, I mean it's just like because it's easy to produce $1,000, one weekend, but can you do it weekend after weekend for, like this market, which is 38 weeks out of the year, so that's definitely it's going to be a challenge. But I think the more, as we get into summer and I can really see like the growth rate on things and nailing my successions, which is like my number one priority, I think we'll be able to get close to that.
And I guess the other part of the production, right, is you have to have the beds developed to meet that layer of production as well. So
Yeah,
yeah, that doesn't mean a full farm build out, but you got to have at least enough built out to give you enough space to do all the successions to continuously deliver that $1,000 of product.
yeah, exactly.
So $1,000 a week, if you're doing that, you're over the moon happy.
Oh my God, yeah, yeah. But it's like we're sitting good. I'm thinking about telling Nicholas, peace out, man. I'm doing this on my own. Um, but yeah, I would say doing that a week. Um, we're 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 talking about how quickly I can just be on the farm as much as possible, if not full time.
Now, here's some looking into a crystal ball. You start selling, you get into June, you're doing $1,000 weeks. A week or two hits $1,100. How many weeks of consistent sales do you need to see before you convince yourself it's not an anomaly and it's became a stable business? That can be, I think, a worry that any new business owner has, where you're like, well, it's great now, but what if I say, see ya to my old job and this trend reverses? It's like I got the newbie syndrome, right? Like everybody's just checking me
Yeah.
out because I'm new and they don't come back or something happens. What would you want to see, or what would be the trigger, I guess is maybe the better way to say, I'm confident that what I'm doing is working and I can remove some of that safety blanket of the other job?
I would say, like, and this has been my benchmark. It's like I gotta make it through summer. Like if I can make it through, like it's hot and it's dry, especially like the back half of summer where it's dry, um, and so like I'm not able to like bank on my lettuces and things as much, you know, but I'm also like refining my ability to like through like shade cloth and overhead irrigation and things during the day to like keep those things good. And that'll give me enough time of warm weather to really try and like see like, all right, like I need to be planting lettuce every week, or every 2 weeks, or whatever. Um, I'd say make it through summer, um, both in the workload, like the physical toll on my body, but also sort of the market will be the busiest then. Um, you know, Probably be the one of the highest, if not the highest, production time on the farm. Um, it's kind of like I'm not really thinking about making any huge shifts in lifestyle change or anything until we can make it through summer, and then we'll like evaluate if I'm cool to start taking time off.
And if you're coasting at that 500 level, like that's all good too, because that's where you need to be. That's
Yeah,
your.
it's at least consistent, and I know that I can like keep hitting those numbers, and it can like only get better from there. Yeah.
When you looked at all the farmers markets that you were had to choose from, I think you said 12 or 14,
Oh
something
yeah,
like
there's a
that,
ton. Yeah.
in your area. How did you narrow down which one you wanted to target?
Um, Part of it was proximity. Um, you know, do I want to drive an hour and a half every day, every Saturday to a market? Um, Part of it was um, location. Like, how's the location of it? Is it in a parking lot? Is it in a, you know, downtown area? So on and so forth. What's the like the mix of vendors? Because like around here, especially like outside of the city, it's like a lot of like craftspeople. So it might be a quote unquote farmers market, but it's really more of like a craft market, you know, and and then also it's like, is there a niche that I can fit? I think that was probably like a huge one because it's like I can go to Athens or I can go to Atlanta and I can be just another farm in the huge market that's doing this same exact stuff, and probably still do pretty good just because the sheer volume of people. And it's like, or I can go to a mid-size market, in a suburban town and like fill a niche that is not there. And so that was probably like the biggest criteria is like, can I find my spot to fit in there instead of just trying to compete with people who've been doing it much longer than me with a much more established client base and doing this exact same thing.
So the market that you settled on, that checked a lot of those boxes. It sounds like they wanted somebody selling the types of crops that you're selling. Is there other veg vendors there that are sharing the category with you?
Yeah, there's some in the two that I've narrowed down. It's settling into a spot where it's like, oh yeah, there's a couple other farmers, and a couple of them are like good farmers. Like at one of the market, there's like certified organic farm. They've been doing it. that it seems like they're kicking butt. They like both husband and wife have gone full time on the farm, so like seemingly it's successful. I haven't had a chance to meet them just because they're like we kind of drive from two opposite directions to the same market. Um, but um, but yeah, I mean, it's not going to be just like I walk into town and nobody else has what I'm selling. But I think just in like um, sort of slight variety change or difference, the way in which I'm selling it, like doing bagged salad mix or just doing bagged greens mixes, I think is something that there's not a ton of in our area. You have to like go in like into the more like metro areas to get that. Um, at least from what I'm seeing, like people are digging it. Like they love just being able to buy a bag of salad mix, take it home and throw it in a bowl and 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 eat it up.
If you think of that first farmers market setup that you have, what are the products on the table?
So you're saying like April when like market season starts,
We'll
like
give it
what's
a
on?
couple. We'll give it a couple weeks to get like the growing season underway. Not the very first one when it's still on the shoulder seasons, but let's get
Gotcha.
into June when weather's good, days are longer. In your rolling a bit. What does that market look like?
Yeah, I mean it's definitely greens heavy for sure. Um, I feel like that's really kind of my niche to fill. It's pushing salad mix, maybe some head lettuce. We'll see. And that's going to be kind of more of like just see what the people at that market want. From the past, people haven't wanted head lettuce as much as they've wanted salad mix. But just greens in general, your kales, your collards, just like brassicas and mustard greens and stuff. And then I really want to lean into the baby root stuff, whether it's just like Hackeri turnips by the bunch or like smaller bunches of beets, or then even kind of ripping off some stuff from Jody Roebuck and doing like his little baby root um, mix like that. As soon as I heard him start talking about it, I was like, "That's amazing! I need to do that because it's just gonna sell like gangbusters." And then by then we'll probably have some obviously like summer squash, um, and some nightshade stuff, peppers, tomatoes. Hopefully by then.
When you look at the initial business model, farmers market farm, these types of crops, what do you think is going to be the biggest hurdle to getting to that $500 a week level? Is it infrastructure? Is it you learning how to grow on your own at the site? Is it crop consistency? Is it, learning how to just work the market? Where do you think your biggest nerve point is when you look ahead to getting to where you need to be?
I mean, it's 100%, you know, crop consistency and nailing my successions and in crop planning and timing. Because that's the one thing like that will probably make or break me this year. Because it's the one thing I have the least amount of experience with. You know, um, Not making those decisions. Between like, well, let's go ahead and let's plant out however many. Let's do a full bed of broccolini. It's like, well, dang, we really should have done two beds of broccolini or whatever. Like I think that's the biggest hurdle. Selling it, like I don't have any question at all, both from just knowing myself, coming from kind of a sales and marketing background and doing a lot of like trade shows and kind of booth setup type, in the jobs I've had previously. It was like every job seemed to have a thing where I got sent out to a conference or a trade show or an event, set up a booth, and then sell whatever we do. And so it's like I kind of know that world extremely well. And if anything, I feel like that's one of my strengths is I'll be able to go in a little bit more personable. I'm not standing behind a table, just like waiting for people to come up. I'm like one step short of just like grabbing people and bringing them into the tent. But
Selling
Yeah, selling. Like I'm not concerned about that whatsoever. It's going to be 100% um, like crop planning, timing, successions, rotations, and then probably some infrastructure. Like, do I have the space to be able to produce? Like, can my rotations be as tight as I want them to be, or do I really need to like do like do I need to do a cover crop like in between every bed flip, like in between every crop, or and that's kind of one of those things that I won't know until I know.
Any early thoughts on how many beds you need to hit this goal?
Um, so I'm doing 100-foot beds, so I would say um, probably in the 30 range, like 30 100-foot beds. I think that between my high and low, I think that'll get me where I need to go. And when it's all said and done, like the whole farm will be somewhere in the neighborhood of like 64 to 70 beds. So that kind of gives you an idea. So it's like that's like half the farm totally jamming, half an acre versus a full acre.
If you think what crop, where you want to go, you mentioned a lot of stuff earlier, squash, potatoes, different things you could experiment in, tomatoes. I just know from talking to enough people, the more crops you try and grow, the harder it is to grow anything well.
Yeah.
When you look at year one, especially the beginning, and we'll talk crops and crop planting probably in a future episode, but what are your thoughts now on, yes, I want to go to some of these areas where the breadth of what I offer is bigger, but the tip of the sphere, here's what we're going to grow, here's what we're going to excel at. How many crops do you think that is?
I'd say like at any given time, it'll change seasonally. But I mean, it's probably in the like 6 to 10 range, I would say.
Mhm.
Like definitely focusing on the greens and those greens mixes, and then some baby root stuff, and then let everything else just kind of be a as I have it, as I can get it sort of thing, and not like I'm not putting all my eggs in the winter squash basket, more or less.
Right, right. It's similarly like what about the all eggs in the farmer's market basket? Do you have to have a contingency plan? I mean, odds of you selling 100% of everything you grow at that market is probably, I would say, slim. What do you
Yeah.
do with the extra?
Um, so I'm definitely planning on doing this sort of like hybrid. See, I don't really know what to call it, but it's like people order online or monthly. I haven't really quite settled in on exactly what I'm going to do. And then do like local pickup, whether it's on farm pickup or in town, because both farmers markets that I'm kind of eyeing, neither of them are in the town that we live in, like currently, and where all of our friends and our family and all of our relationships for the last 10 years have been. And it's like, and I see that group of people and those relationships is such a valuable thing that I would be insane to completely neglect and just be like, hey, if you want my stuff, drive 45 minutes down the road to this other city and buy my stuff. Otherwise, tough luck. It's like these are the people that are buying my stuff now. And so, you know, wanting to be able to offer stuff, one, just because like these are friends and family and been my cheerleaders for the last couple of years as they've, spurred me on to make this thing a reality. But also it's um, like these are already extremely loyal customers that you know I don't want to pass up on, and they'll buy stuff like week after week all year long.
Yeah, I mean that's one huge thing that so many of us have is we have our own individual network and community and leverage that as much as possible. And now you are moving from that location where a lot of that community is closer to your farm. But the one thing that community has is the relationship. So if you can have something, it's almost like you need effectively an online farm stand, right? Like,
Exactly,
you know,
which is what I'm trying to build right now.
yeah, even if it's email based or something like that. Hey, here's what we have this week. What do you want? And you go to like one drop point if it's a church or somebody's house, a friend's house, that type of thing. Kind of
Exactly.
a buying club. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, because that could be, I mean, that's another bonus, right? Because the great thing about that list is you can almost present it as here's what I have available. I need this many, since they're close, you can kind of say whatever you want, right? Like, I need this many people to place an order, to deliver it. And if you don't get it, you don't go, right? You don't have to necessarily
Yeah.
commit. Where the farmer's market, you got to show up. You can hustle and sell,
Mhm.
doesn't mean people are gonna buy. So that community thing is something you can leverage without a lot of pressure of like having to necessarily deliver every week. Or if you're already going to that community, it's like, hey, I'll just bring whatever I have anyway. It's all bonus.
Well, and that's another thing that I've learned from like being at Crystal Organic is like, yeah, like they do an online order and like farm pickup, and like without the influence of that, I would have probably tried to make it as easy for a customer as possible, like no minimum purchase amount, this super wide range of time when people can show up, and all these sort of things. And it's like, and then you see someone who's been doing it a long time and they like know what numbers they need to hit and know what they need to do to make it worth their time. And it's like, you know, here's a 2 hour window that you get to show up and buy your stuff, because we're busy farming still. And it's like $25 order minimum and those sort of things. And it was like those have been good things that I've witnessed, and it's like, oh no, yeah, like I need to make sure that this is going to be worth my while. Like I'm not going to drive into town to do like 2 order pickups. It's like I need to, yeah, it needs to be like $25 minimum. I'm not going to hang out at the coffee shop for 4 hours waiting on, a handful of people to buy their stuff. Like it needs to be like, meet me at this time, pick up your stuff, and let's go.
Yeah, I think it's important to set limits. I mean, with Modern Grower and the paper pot stuff, like we've had some people ask for. We used to sell these mix boxes of paper chains where you get some 2, 4, and 6 inch all in one case. And we didn't sell that many. It was a pain to pack. So finally we just pulled it, and we have people that still ask for it. And it's just, sorry, we don't do it anymore. Uh,
Yeah.
it's just not worth it for us. And I think that is the key to a lot of business, whether you're new or old, is like you have to set limits.
Hmm.
Here's what works for me. Limits on yourself of what you do and what you want to take on, and your limits on your own ambition, but also limits of what customers you're willing to give to customers, because I think new businesses can be very vulnerable to saying yes to stuff that they wouldn't otherwise say yes to when they're new, because they view every customer so much higher, and it's like, well,
Yeah.
this is a sale, I'll do it. But it's like, yeah, if you were making that $2,000 a week at the farmer's market, would you still be saying yes to this? No. Okay, well, you probably shouldn't do it. So like there's always that check of it, like you said, is it worth it to drive there for 4 hours at a coffee shop and two people pick up an order?
Yeah. And if you do create like parameters that your customers have to fall into, the people that do fall into that, like, are going to be solid customers. Like those people that were buying, that were the loyal buyers of your mixed paper chain thing, like they probably are still buying stuff. They're just buying, three, a box of each instead of, a mixed thing. And so it's like, you're still going to retain those customers. You're kind of creating more valuable customers out of the people that you have.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, that's just part of any business. And anybody listening to this has had that of, hey, if we can't help you, I'm fine to say go find somebody else, because there's limits to kindness, and people will take advantage of things these days of
Yeah.
too much Karen and Kyle of wanting what they need, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So thinking ahead, where you are today, beginning February, how has the farm shaped up compared to the vision you had in your head? Well, when did you first conceive? I should ask this because I don't think we've talked about this. When did you first conceive of farming on your own? Like, do you remember when that was approximately?
Um, I mean, it had to have been like super early on. Just knowing how I am, like not great with help, and haven't traditionally been much of like a collaborative type person. You know, it's kind of like if I want to do it, I'm just going to do it myself because I know I'll do it right. So I'd say probably the thought of actually doing it with other people was never really much of a thought, and I'm trying to actually sort of embrace that, you know, more collaborative, cooperative sort of idea now. But I mean, it's always been like, you know, once I realized like there might be something to this whole farming thing, it's like I'm gonna start a farm. So I mean, it's been probably a decade.
But when was it? All right, I'm actively going to seek out land.
Oh, gotcha. That would have been probably this time last year.
Okay, so a year ago.
Yeah.
So if you look at the last year versus today, how does vision you had then match reality today? Doesn't meet expectations, meets expectations, exceeds expectations.
I mean, I think it totally sort of like, in some ways, it blows my expectations out of the water. Like looking at the piece of property that I'm on, you know, being able to do what I'm doing with what I have, like, you know, I couldn't have asked for a better piece of property. And so in that way, it definitely like blows my expectations out of the water. You know, I probably would have thought I would have been more established, like everything built out, you know, doing, especially if you'd have been like, you're going to have a farm in 9 months from now, and then a year from now, where are you going to be? Like, oh yeah, everything's jamming. And so, but I would say overall, definitely, um, I anticipated several years of like really slow work, just trying to build something up,
Like
really with
grind.
just the intent of trying to have a proof of concept to like get in with FSA, NRCS, and start trying to get some grant money. Like that was the whole point of all of this, was just like not even to try to make a career out of it right now. It's like let's just use like all that sort of stuff. Like you have to have a few years under your belt before you can really start getting any sort of like assistance or help. And it was just like let's just try to get something and some number on paper that will make them feel like if they're investing in what we're doing, it's worth their investment.
Yeah, one thing I don't know that we give ourselves credit for is how much can change quickly.
Oh my
You think
gosh,
about it, 12 months ago, you had none of this.
nothing. I was looking at a bare piece of grass in my yard and thinking like I could get a few beds in here and maybe grow some stuff.
And yeah, and it's really easy to say, like, I'm not far enough along, or I thought I'd be further. But if you flip that on your head, it's like, well, look where I did come from.
Oh yeah.
It's because I had zero. You've acquired land, you've worked out a land deal, you've set up beds, you're planning, you're starting to build customers. I mean, there's an amazing amount of inertia you had to overcome to do that, because so many people get stuck in the, yeah, I want to farm someday thing, and they never do anything. So just the fact that you're here is a testament to, you beat the odds.
Mhm. Yeah. Thanks for that encouragement.